Super Bowl. Well, I said earlier that Saturday was a special day for a lot of us, and had that championship team over at my house late that night, and it was just fun to reminisce. It was fun to realize some guys that really appreciated a lot of things, so I enjoyed that. The reunion went well, and of course the fans were great. But now it's getting ready for Indiana, and another concern. I mean, with Mike and what's all that's going on, it's obvious that there's a lot of news, but it doesn't change that this is, and it was said to be the team with Oregon picked to win it. They were a very talented team. The talent has not changed. They have struggled as of late, but every loss seems to be a close loss, especially Maryland, Purdue, and Michigan lately. They're huge up front now with Ballo, and one other thing that's different is Renew, who killed us last year, has been out with a knee injury, and he's played, I think, 3 or 4 games, but he's definitely played his last 2, has been his best games, and then both of them are scoring in double figures. Mbako is still a guy. He's averaging 18 and 6, so as a big 6'8", 6'9" wing, that creates problems for us, and they do have experienced guards. Galloway's 6'5", he's big. Gooding's 6'7", he's shooting the daylights out of it. And Miles Rice, who was really good early, has been a little more up and down, but that is a talented 8-9 guys right there that we're going to have to contend with. As far as our illnesses, we seem to be improved. Jaden, I'm hoping, can go today. Did not yesterday, but we did not do much yesterday other than walkthroughs, film sessions, and getting some shots up. So, quick turnaround, but ready to go. Questions?
Tom, you talked about how special the moment was. Was there a chance you had to kind of really reflect on it where, the tying Bob Knight's record, the 2000 team, and Jace doing what he did on that kind of day where it kind of all came together for you? Because you said you were going to take your time to appreciate it.
Yeah, I did. I appreciated Jace's performance because I got to watch it, and I really appreciated the team being there. What an exciting time for all of them. I mean, again, I keep downplaying this thing that I'm not really downplaying, but that was definitely on the bottom of my list. And if it happens, it happens. Tying something doesn't matter. And we'll see when it does, if it does. But having those guys back and having Jace have the game he had, and we had a lot of guys that played pretty well, but he just had one of those even more efficient than normal, and he's probably his most efficient guy I got. So, and, for his dad to be in the stands with it, and of course all those other players. And when you think about it, Mateen's now got a son who's a freshman that's playing a lot, and David Thomas has one, and Andre's got one that already signed at St. Louis. And really the apple didn't fall far from the tree on a lot of those guys. There's a reason we were good, and it's kind of staying in the family, so that's been pretty exciting to watch happen.
The job that the 3 guys did in the post for you, kind of with the way Jace played, maybe went a little bit overlooked. But I'm wondering what you've seen from Jackson, but also, I mean, Cooper in this last 4 or 5 game stretch seems to have really turned a corner for you.
I would agree with that. I think Coop was almost pronounced dead. He just was not playing very well. I've got a new sign in my office that a quote from Pat Summitt that talks about if you're, if you aren't able to say what your mistakes are, it's hard to improve and get better. And I remember Coop walking in my office, and I said, "What's going on?" And he said, I won't say exactly what he said. I'm not playing very well, but he knew it. And so we talked about some things that we thought would help him improve on, and he's been working on his free throws a lot, but I think he put more emphasis into saying, you know what, got to work on my jump hooks and that, but to help his team win, I got to be able to defend. I got to be able to rebound. I got to be able to make free throws. I got to be able to run the court. And I think he has been, Jax has had more good games, of course, and had a great game the other night. But I think Coop has just done what you said. Last 5 games, he's made a big difference in our team.
A year ago down there, some different personnel, but they were big, and it was obvious that you guys weren't, or at least able to counter what they did in the post. And I'm wondering, when you see a lineup this big with Ballo, who you faced before, and you brought in Zappala, you brought in Fiddler, you're bigger. Is this sort of a little bit of a test of the versatility and size that you've brought into
I think
counter?
it is a lot. When you watch Omar, he's definitely in better shape. I think he's lost some weight. He's so big, it's hard he seems to be moving better. And like I said, the Renew thing, the problem is you almost got to watch tape on last year, because up until the last 2 or 3 games, he wasn't playing, or he wasn't playing nearly, with a pretty good knee injury from what I was told. Together, which they've only played together sparingly in these last couple of games, they're a load, and that's going to be an issue, And you look at the games they've lost, and they were all right in them, and now getting Renew back, I think, as I said, when you play 20 games, a long season, you have everybody seems to be having these 4 and 5 game losing streaks. So, a lot of Maryland early, UCLA was, Oregon, now Indiana. I mean, these are talented teams. Some of it is the schedule, some is when you play them, and some of it, in all honesty, is the injury. Like Illinois still could be the best team out there, and they've had injuries, illnesses, sicknesses, mono. I mean, they've had a lot of different things that have done that. So I would say this will be a big test for our bigs in a lot of ways. That's for sure.
Tom, sort of big picture, not asking within the context of this game or last game, but watching college basketball, I was wondering, you've had Shimon now for more than half the season. I'm wondering, with having a guy like that and his background and everything, does that inform maybe at all your future preferences or anything in recruiting? Like, is it like that guy, a big with that type of skill set, is that something you might be prioritized more moving forward now that you've had him for a little bit, whether he's European or not, but having a guy like that at that position?
It's funny, because you've seen things go like this, especially in the last even couple of years. It was almost like nobody would even talk about a big guy. And now our league's got a ton of them. I don't know if it's like the stock market, or if it's like the housing market or what, but it just seems to be changing a lot. So would we always like to have a guy like that, he's starting to make free throws. He does have size. He's got some skills down there. Sure, we would, and no matter where you got him from. But just as I say that, we'll go back to small ball pretty quick here. It seems like it's really fluctuated, hasn't it? I mean, I don't know what it seems to you, but it sure is a lot more bigs in our league right now. I mean, we have 5 or 6 7-footers. I mean, that was almost non-existent, other than, the big kid from Purdue for 3-4 years.
Tom, I know you don't want to talk about the record so much in depth, but I'm curious, if and when you do break it and you think about Bob Knight, what memories are you going to think of?
Oh, I have a lot of good memories. I mean, you have to have the memory of him throwing the chair, just because it was iconic, And but I mean, I have memories of the Olympics. I have memories of just standing behind Judd, watching him shake Bob's hand and over things. I have memories of him kind of sneaking up on me in my first game down there and telling me how bad the officials are going to be. And he did it right in front of the officials. And the 4 of them laughed, and I was scared to death. So, of course, the first win was against them, and we weren't that good, and we found a way to win that game. That was a great memory. And, And probably one of my best memories is when we beat them down there the year we won the championship. And he told me that we were good enough to win a championship after the game. And he was great about everything. So, you know, I'm sure there's a lot more. You just asked me now. But, you know, I look at there's always going to be goods and bads in a guy's career. And there's always going to be issues. And but I think he did a lot more good for the game for most of his career, you know. Things like they always do if you don't be careful to make it crazy before it's over. You know, when I look back at, you know, some guys that I respected in the profession that I'm in, both football and basketball. But for me, it'll be an honor and a privilege if that day comes. It's already an honor and a privilege that it came to tie somebody like that, because growing up in the coaching profession, he was a guy, you know, for me it was he, Gene Cady, you know, Clem Haskins. I mean, those people did a lot for me in the Big Ten, and I will forever be grateful and forever realize how much I learned from all of them. I mean, you know, Bob, that motion, offense, and all the things he did, and you know, you learn good and bad too. You know, like what not to do, what to do. You know, Clem, it was just, I mean, our physicality doesn't even touch his, and Gene, of course, is still one of my all-time favorites. So, I was fortunate, but Bob was. He was the standard. I mean, you look at the national championships he won. How many Final Fours did he go to? You would know. Yeah, he went to 5. And look at the Big Ten he won. I mean, winning and him were synonymous, and that included the Olympics. That included basketball in general. So, yeah, it's humbling to even talk about.
Tom, since the first Big Ten tournament in '98, we've always said the regular season means so much more than the tournament. Now, with the 20-game schedule, you only play a team twice, only 3 of them, and with these ups and downs we're talking about, maybe the depth of the league this year in the mid-range. Could this be as good a Big Ten tournament as we've seen, and could it mean more than it's ever meant before?
God, even you're getting crazy like the rest of these guys. We got 8 games left in the
I'm just
tournament
thinking about
hunt.
in terms of the. Yeah.
You know, when I die, I wonder what it'll be like. You know, no, I'm just kidding.
Everyone's talking about the conference.
No, I think you're right.
championship, though, but I mean, it might
I'm
be more
kidding
than
you
that.
because I got so many things, especially in a 2-day prep. But I think a lot of these conference tournaments is going to be big. But you think of the Big Ten and the SEC. And those tournaments are going to be off the chart. You even think of Gonzaga's. They got now 4 teams up on top that are good. But ours, and someone's going to come out, you know, because I've really never looked at this year who got the break in the schedule. You know, I'm not sure who did and who played once and who played twice. And other years it was more definable. This is not, to me. And so you're going to go in there and someone's going to beat somebody and everybody's going to question it. You know, like Illinois is the best example right now. They just won big the other night. And what do they got, 6, 7 losses in our league? I mean, you know, and most of that is because of injuries and illness, I think. But, yeah, I think it will be one of the best ever because the number of good teams, everybody will be playing for something. Now that we only have how many 15 of the 18, and I mean there's a good chance that 12 or 13 of them would be playing for an NCAA berth in a lot of ways, maybe more, the way it's going right now. So yeah, I think it'll be a hell of a tournament for you guys, for the fans.
Hey, Tom, you touched on a little bit that you had a chance to reflect yesterday. Curious to know if there was a moment when you were deliberate and like looking around and reflecting. And also, can we revisit the non-quarterback controversy for educational purposes? Is it controversial because it calls into question loyalty, player, okay, one way or other. Can you just give us some insight on that?
Now, first part of the question is, I think right when the game ended and I realized all those guys were right behind me, that was a moment I took. Instead of going down and shaking the coach's hand right away, I went to those guys first. I figure everything I've done, everything I own, everything I've been able to do is because of them. And it really is. Mateen got up at our little reunion upstairs and gave me more credit. But the truth of it is, if they didn't start it, that year 3, most of you weren't around, but Jack, you were. I was on the, I guess now we call it the hot seat. That was like 5 games into the year, and that hot seat was getting hot. And those guys kind of saved the day. And so that was one. And then when I was able to talk to the crowd, or when I was standing there with, about 30 seconds left, just kind of, I did an El McGuire, I just kind of looked up at the place and I said, wow, at that time, nobody had left and it was packed. And I got one of the all-time texts that I will share with you. I got 1 million texts that night, of course, and from some great, great people and great, great coaches. But I got one from Steve Elford. And it was to congratulate me on tying that, but it was also talking about him and his wife and one of our former employees, whose brother works here now, Claire Donnelly, works for Steve out there, and she used to be one of our student secretaries. And anyway, he said we were watching it and amazed. He said, I was amazed how many former players and coaches came back there, he said it. And then he went on to say, it reminded me when he got fired at UCLA, I had called and he was trying to make a tour. He was trying to hit about 10 or 15 schools the next year, programs just that he could go spend time with. And he came here and it was on senior night, which was also our, I think it was our reunion then too, but it was also senior night. And he came here, stayed at my house, spent 3 days with us. And he said, you've got the best culture in college basketball by a lot. And I went and visited some of the top programs, and I watched this weekend. And whenever you get frustrated, appreciate what you got, because nobody has it. Well, I don't know if that's totally true, but I told him it was one of the best texts I got, because that probably means more to me than a record, than a wins, and even a championship. And that was pretty cool.
Did kind of a 2-part thing.
Oh, wait, I got to ask the second part of his question, because, I always kid about quarterback controversy, but it's not even close to a quarterback controversy, because when you pick a quarterback, it's kind of funny. Of all things, I was thinking of you guys and how much I hate some of your questions. But as I was watching a little bit of the Super Bowl, and I was thinking of Hurt and what he did, and and Nick, and I had talked to Nick about it after that thing happened when he changed that halftime. But when you pick a quarterback, that other guy's probably not playing. We might move guys around for various reasons. I don't want to be moving everybody around. You want some consistency, but we have some issues that are different for us this year with smaller guards in some ways. We played USC really hurt us with big guards. They kill us on the boards. And we didn't do it. Staff didn't do a very good job of that. But, that's what I look at too. Who plays well with each other? What do you need in the game? We're going to play a game that has 2 really good bigs. But you know how they played the last 5 weeks? They played with Goody. Remember him from Illinois? He's been their 4-man most of the time because Renew's been out. So they went from a shooting 4-man to now a powerful post player in Renew. So there's really no controversy. There's no loyalty. The best players should play. There's loyalty that you, on first right of refusal, more or less, but play the game. I mean, you got to play, and are you working at it? You know, are you working at it? Are you doing all the things? I mean, that's one of the things I talked to Coop about. You know, are you doing all the things? Well, he was doing a lot with his free throw shooting. That improved. You know, in the 2 hours at the end of my house the other night, I sat with 9 guys in the back room, and they were talking about something that we did that I mean, some that I can tell you, some that I can't, but because I don't want to incriminate myself. But one of them was, you know, we had meetings every night. We weren't very good, so we had meetings every night. And practice, eat, meetings. Now, you know, God, you can't go over this many hours. And I mean, there were no rules back then. It was more fun. And the meeting was we'd meet for an hour, and then we had just gotten satellite dishes and that, you know, that's when they were, and they'd want to watch, because they didn't have that at home, they'd want to watch a game that was on TV, a college game. We sat in this room down here, we watched college games, and then that'd get done at 11 o'clock, and they'd say, Coach, let's turn on the NBA games out west, you know. We'd sit down there with 6 or 8 guys, and Mike Garland was there, and Brian Gregory was there the other night, and we were just talking about how many times we just sat around watching games together. We were all together, you know, and I miss that. But I think a lot of kids missing out on that, because I watched 9 guys talk about things like that for 2 hours. You know what an impact that must have had on them 25 years later? You know, now we made it so that the NCAA and everybody thinks it's a grind to spend time with people. No. Sometimes it's fun to spend time with people. And so it was refreshing for me, but so there's no quarterback controversy, but and it's my fault because I said quarterback controversy whenever I speak about stuff like that. Players are going to play. If I change things here and there, whether it was Coop or could still be Coop, or minutes are probably going to stay the same or change. I told you minutes are going to change a little bit. They are going to change a little bit. That's what happens as the season goes on. Question.
Well, first of all, Hurts is the first Nick quarterback, I think, to win a Super Bowl.
He's one of the first Nick quarterbacks.
I think he might be. Because,
and Nick's a D-back coach.
Yeah. This is just in talking about Bob Knight. One of the things going back to Saturday's game is that the line where you get the technical, and then afterward there may be a few more calls. Like I'm wondering about how you've in your career, first of all, found that line, because I think Chris Collins got ejected the other night, and how you've been able to manage that. And two, with Mike having played for Bob, do you feel like that would make any more motivation for Indiana coming here to kind of, I mean, beyond the normal of that?
For sure. I mean, I think they'll be motivated, you know, still for their coach. I think Mike will be motivated. You know, the line, I don't know about the line. I bet you half you were hoping I threw a chair, right? So you could say, I knew you were. Listen, I think the last, you know, everybody kind of, once you do something, that's what you do for life, you know. I mean, I haven't had many technicals in the last 5, 6, 7 years at all. And, you know, I mean, I thought it was warranted. I knew it could hurt us. I didn't look at it like I'm going to get more calls. I can promise you that. Those days are over, because there's too many officials now. You got too many people all around the country. You know, when it used to be the Big Ten, was Judd was there, we'd get the same guys every other game, it seemed like. Now it's different than that. So that wasn't even in the thought process. I was not happy with some calls, whether it was right or wrong, but thank God I had 15,000 other people that weren't happy with the same calls, and on some of them, I might even had some media guys that weren't happy with those calls. So I'm not I'm not that good like Bob was. I mean, his was strategic, but he was the guy then, and those officials, there was a smaller group of them. I would never go into a game thinking I could influence anybody or that I would, because half the time I don't even know the guys I'm having anymore. That's odd for thinking that you've been in the league 40 years.
Tom, you mentioned Jaden and the health earlier. Would you anticipate to have a full lineup on Tuesday night? And then secondly, not that you want to be shorthanded, but how much did you guys learn from being able to play without Xavier, without your starting point guard, and to be able to be successful?
Well, I think every time there's some adversity, you learn something, sometimes positively, sometimes negatively. You know, like when we always go on the road, or if we're at home and the other team comes up with an injury right before the game, I swear to you, 9 out of 10 times for that one game, it seems like a team plays better sometimes. You know, things, it just happens that way. But, you know, what I learned most in that game is, you know, Jace has been efficient all year. He's been efficient, probably averaging 7, 8 shots a game, and he got 13 in this game because he had to play more minutes. I also know that we had some guys, a lot of guys that got tired. So the strength in numbers thing is still very valuable to us. But like I said, the minutes may change some, you know. And but I was impressed. I was impressed that Trey came back and made some shots in that second half that were critical, and that we got the ball in there to Kohler, and he did a very good job. But when you have a game like Jace had, it wasn't that he hit a bunch of wild shots. I mean, he just hit some good shots, and I think, you know, are they going to guard him different now? Maybe. Was it a surprise to them? I don't know. I know he can do those things because I see it every day in practice. Now, to that level, that was a special night, you know. It was maybe that was for Dad, you know, but it was just cool the way it happened, and it wasn't like I sat there and said, "Wow, he made some shots he could never make again." I thought the greatest part of what he did is he took a lot. In fact, one time he came to me and said, "I took a bad shot." I said, yeah, everybody's allowed one, and that's about what he had. He took a lot of good shots, and he made good shots. So I was pleased with that, and pleased the fact that he got to the line and he didn't have one turnover. I mean, that's taking care of some things, to be honest with you. I do. Jaden would, I mean, like we woke up today and my phone said, "No bad news." I mean, it was 3 days in a row we woke up and somebody was sick. And then when we heard the stuff from UCLA and a few other teams, a lot of people were getting sick. And it wasn't anything that lasted 3-4 days. It was like that 2.5 day thing, but no bad news today. So, and then I talked to Jaden and our trainer today, and that he should be able to practice. You know, at what level, I don't know. And I think the other two guys will definitely practice. Thanks, guys. Enjoy.